What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 88 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genres, trad or indie published. I'm Megan, self-proclaimed content queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author. Sometimes they're returning guests, sometimes it's someone new. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you could catch a previous interview about a book you finished. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I'm encouraging the badass FMC to fuck to fuck it all and burn the world down. Just please be mindful around listening ears. And also, it's June. Happy Pride Month to all who celebrate. Cantina Book Club is an LGBTQ plus friendly space. Keep an eye out on my social media for book suggestions if you want to support authors in the LGBTQ plus community. And as always, check out previous interviews and keep an eye out just to see the next guest could be your favorite author or someone from that community. So happy Pride. For all of you Chicagoland and Midwest readers, I'm going to be a panelist at Books in Bloom, taking place July 11th and 12th at the Sonesta Chicago O'Hare in Rosemont, Illinois. The event is hosted by Chicago North romance writers. For details and tickets, visit chicagobookinbloom.com. I really hope to see you guys there. So now, books coming out this week. We're talking about the first week of June, June 1st. We've got Family and Other Calamities by Leslie Grace Streeter, and I'm going to be interviewing her later this summer, so that'll be really exciting. You guys can check out the book and keep an eye out for when that interview comes out later this year. No Lie Lasts Forever by Mark Stevens. I have already interviewed and released the episode for him, so that is on episode 87 if you all want to check that out. The Palace at the End of the Sea by Simon Tolkien. Yes, J.R.R.'s grandson. And so I'm really excited to check that out as well. June 3rd, The Ground That Devours by Kala Harris. Again, a future guest. I'm interviewing her in September, so keep an eye out for that. Check out the book this week so that you can keep an eye out for the interview coming later this summer. And then also The Lost Book of First Loves by RaeAnne Thayne. Today's episode features a chat with RaeAnne Thayne talking about her book, available today. First of all, I did enjoy this book. I haven't read anything by RaeAnne before, but I really did enjoy it. It is romance, but also more heavily on women's fiction, where it's like the two female main characters. It's more so about their journeys, their character journeys, and less about their romantic interests. But the romance does play a huge part in their journey. But just so you know, if you're looking for like spiciness scale, it's like not even a bell pepper at this point. So maybe barely a bell pepper. So just, keep that what you will. For someone who does like a little spiciness in my books that I read, my romance that I read, I still really enjoyed this book by RaeAnne Thayne, The Lost Book of First Loves. So get ready and grab your favorite drink, whether it's a Chardonnay, IPA, or a cup of coffee. Without further ado, here is RaeAnne Thayne. So today we've got RaeAnne Thayne. We're talking about her book, The Lost Book of First Loves. That book is available on June 3rd. RaeAnne, thank you so much for joining me today. I just finished this book a few days ago, so it's fresh in my brain. I loved it. It was so sweet and cute, and because of the romance, but because of the whole story and the discovery, and it was just so fun. I couldn't put it down. I'm happy to dig a little bit deeper today.
I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you so much. It's early days yet, since I'm only hearing from a few readers who've read it. So I'm a little nervous about it going live and wide to the world, but it's exciting to hear from readers that have read it.
Yeah, 100%. I totally get that. Yeah. You're about to launch your baby into the world and you're not sure what to expect and how it's going to be received. At least for this reader, I appreciated it. I enjoyed it. And for like the romance part of it, I'm usually someone who enjoys like the intimate parts, but it was like it just flowed so well. I don't feel like I was missing anything by the lack of intimate moments, because there was plenty of intimate moments. It's that slow burn. I think the
Right.
slow burn part of it like scratched that itch for me, but I really liked it. I enjoyed getting to know your characters and all that good stuff. So to get started, could you share a summary of the book so that people can follow along with the conversation?
Sure. So after her literary icon father dies unexpectedly, Allison Wells just finds out through a DNA test that she actually has a half sister she knew nothing about. So, of course, she wants to meet this half sister. She's lost her father. She's grieving. She wants to connect with any other piece of him that she can. And so she takes a job as an intern for this half sister that she tracks down. Her name is Juniper Conley. She's the head of a fitness tech company, or she's the marketing director of a fitness tech company that she helped found. She's a very high powered, active executive, very busy woman. And so Allison takes a job with her, not very good at taking the job at the job. And so she's about to get fired when June has a heart attack, heart event, I guess you could say, and basically dies. And Allison brings her back because she learned CPR after her father's unexpected death. And it's her as she's recovering to come and recover at the ranch. June doesn't know that Allison's dad is also her dad. She thought her dad was a military guy that died before when she was very young. And so she goes to Allison's father's writing cabin to recover from this. And lots of things ensue. There's a lost manuscript involved. They're searching for a lost manuscript. Allison has a friends to lovers kind of storyline, and June has an enemies to lovers, although the enemy part resolves quite quickly. And so of course there's romance, because I can't not write romance, but it's more than that. It's about the sisters coming together and putting their own demons to rest, to open their hearts to each other.
Yeah, yeah, in a nutshell, I know it's we'll try to be, like, a little spoiler free for the sake of just not trying to spoil things here. But yeah, the opening chapter, I just even though it's not laughable, it was hilarious. I just because the readers were getting to know it pretty much from Juniper's point of view, like, that's what we are introduced to, and it immediately we're thrown into we understand the type of person she is because she's just my intern couldn't quite cut it, and you're not sure, like, the reader's kinda not sure, "Wait, what's going on here?" But then as we get to know Allison, it's so funny because she knows she's horrible at this job. She, like
It's
yeah.
totally outside her comfort zone. It's not. She just earned her law degree. She's waiting to take the bar exam. And even that, she's not quite sure if that's what she wants either. She's at a stage that lots of us are in our lives where we've worked hard for something and then aren't quite sure that's really what we want. And so she was at a good place to take this internship, but really it wasn't in her skill set whatsoever. She's not
Yeah.
cut out for business and didn't want to do it at all. And obviously that came through to June, who just thought she thought she was helping this woman, mentoring this other woman to be great at the corporate world, and then had to unfortunately tell her we're not a very good fit for each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just love that self-awareness and all, how she's got an ulterior motive, and she's just like, what way that's the method that she chose to wiggle her way into her surprise half-sister's life. It's just, "Let's see if I could get hired here, and then let's
Right,
see I'll try. I'll tell her maybe within the time that I'm with her," but then it's like, she's horrible at her job,
right.
so she can't.
And she's afraid to tell her, so she keeps putting it off to tell her that they're half siblings, because she wants to get to know her first. Doesn't really feel like she had the chance to do that while she was working for her. And then even after she brings takes June back to her Wyoming ranch, this woman just found out she has a congenital heart condition and is dealing with this huge life change, because June had been, I didn't mention that she'd been an athlete. She was very active, an athlete, a Division I track star, and then suddenly finds out that she's got a heart condition and needs to have a pacemaker put in, which, by the way, that I have a cousin that actually had that same condition, didn't find out until she was a young adult that she had
Oh,
this
wow.
condition. And I've read some about it, but it is possible to go your whole life and not know that you have this, and then
Yeah,
suddenly
that's
find out.
wild. That's wild to me. That kinda is a good segue into I often ask authors, like, about the kind of research involved because I imagine, yeah, there's stuff about health and, like, kinda some stuff about tech, but then also there's stuff about some of the other characters and what they do. Like, you shared a lot of good details, like authenticity with Beck's work, his new hobby/business hustle, and then also just with the steps that Allison's maybe or maybe not love interest, her best friend,
Yes, Xander.
Xander, yes. I'm sorry, thank you though,
Do
but
you know
yes,
what? I
so
can't
Xander's
remember my own characters from book to book. I have to sit there and think when I start talking about a previous book that I wrote
there we
2
go.
books ago, I'm like, "Wait, who is this?
Yeah.
Who are the people in this?"
Yeah,
Totally
common
fine.
problem. I almost have no excuse, but I'm like, "No, I am reading, like, 2 other different books right now, so I gotta get back in the zone," and I love the cover, so I'm like, "Yeah, okay, reminder," because I see it in your background, I'm like, "Cover, this is the book
Right.
we're talking about." Yeah, Xander, his, like, kind of YouTube brand personality, and you walked the readers of his process as Allison was walked through his process of setting up the cameras and talking about going to the video editing and like going back and forth and bouncing around ideas and doing the clips and all that. So I want to explore maybe that research process for you because there's all walks of life here, but you described it with authenticity. You found a way to give readers enough details without slowing the pace down, without kind of making my eyes glaze over. I'm like going through this, like I was, yeah, I just found that refreshing. So I kind of want to explore, yeah, like things you looked up and what you knew, for example, from your own experiences, people, stuff like that.
In this particular case, it was mostly some of my own passions because I love watching travel videos on YouTube. I watch lots of
Yeah.
them because I love to travel and don't get the chance very often. I'm caring for a family member who I can't travel with because of him too often. We still,
Mm,
but I watch a lot of YouTube videos about travel and a few that I follow every single week and see what they do. And I'm interested in that. Of course, when I was trying to think of what's a good career for Xander that kind of took him out of the community for a long time and then made him achieve some manner of recognition that seemed to make sense to me. The other one I'm actually really obsessed with. So Beck also does craft that he's picked up after his own tragedy in his backstory, and he makes resin tabletops, which are you take a big slab of beautiful wood and then you pour resin in around it, and I'm fascinated by that, and they're very soothing to watch, and you can do those as ASMR, and I think it's really interesting, and so that sort of made sense to me. And then I thought it was really funny that June knew him from that because, of course, she's this high-powered executive needing ways to unwind, and that was something that she had discovered, but not knowing that it was this. He used to be a prosecuting attorney, and she had a history with him, or a friend of hers had a history with him, and so she had some
mm.
bad feelings toward him because of that.
Yeah, until she starts seeing him in person and continuously where she's like reluctantly admitting how handsome he is.
And
I
she
loved
loves
it. I
the
loved it.
dog, she falls for his dog, and then
Yeah.
if somebody has a great dog and they're sweet to their dog, they fall for them too because,
It's yes.
that
Yes, no, 100%. I'm a sucker for dogs, and every dog I meet knows it. Like, they could pick it. They're like, "Oh, sucker, I'm coming for you. I'm gonna come for pets. I'm gonna come for attention."
Right?
But yeah, no, I liked both of the love stories, but yeah, that was part of it where yeah, because 'cause I'm right there with you. Like, I've seen a couple of videos, the people creating those huge tables or huge pieces of
Mhm.
furniture with the resin, and it's crazy because it is, like, understandably a complicated process, and there's a lot of handling involved and a lot of you just can't it just reminds me of I don't know, I have small hands and small, like, short limbs, so I'm like, I don't think I would be, like, able to do something so huge, but it's so funny where it's work, but it's also yeah, like, I could totally see the appeal where you just sit there and that's, like, you winding down for the day or,
Right.
like, just
Yeah,
watching it done.
I'm very into some ASMR things. I don't always watch that. That's not really the thing that calms me the most, but I have watched it
Mhm.
before, and I love the flow of the resin going into the channel that you've created for it. It's actually really quite cool if you get a chance to those who haven't maybe seen it, it's really fun to look up and see the beautiful things that they create. They're absolutely stunning, the things that people can create.
Yeah, I think I've seen the ones I've seen were I think some guy company was creating it for a celebrity, Joe Manganiello, I think that's his name, because he does D&D or either him or Henry Cavill. I feel like either one of those because I know they're big like closet, not so closet nerds. I think they needed like a gaming table and they hired someone to make and it was like a resin. It was just like huge and like beautiful, but it was yeah, again it reminded me back to where was had to deliver it in a big old truck,
Yeah.
had to have the ramp and everything, and it was I just thought yeah, I thought it was so cool to see for readers at least, like, a little fun way to peek into the different types of jobs and also how that those types of jobs play into those secondary character, like,
Right.
development in their lives. Because Xander, he was like an ugly duckling, and he flourished, and he's got his charm and his smile, and he's clever and kind and stuff like that. But it was cool to see how that stuff like that played into the character growth and the character depth and, like, their backstory, and how much these women already know, but are then continue to learn about them, their love interest, but then also about themselves at the same time.
Right.
That was so
Well,
cool.
with Allie, friends to lovers is my absolute favorite trope. I could read those all day long, but I had to think about why did they not come together when they were in high school? That's always the question, is why didn't anything happen if they were best friends since fourth grade or whatever it was that they, when he moved to town, they've been best friends. And why didn't he ever do anything? And I like the idea that he felt like a nerd. He felt like he was small. He wasn't as good as other people. And so he had to go out. He had to have his own sort of journey. Even though I never wrote a scene in his point of view, you could see that he needed to go out and prove himself to himself before he could come back and show her that there's more to him than she always thought there was.
Yeah, it's and I love how, like, clueless she is. Everybody knew it except for her, of
That
course.
is always how it
Yeah,
is. Well,
I like
and maybe she knew, but she just didn't really know or was afraid. Maybe
Yeah,
that's always the thing. That's always the challenge when you write a friends to lovers is how do you risk destroying this friendship by making a
exactly,
move that's romantic if it's not reciprocated? And so there's always that huge
exactly.
risk you have to take when you're writing or when you're in that situation of a friends to lovers. And she was afraid
Absolutely.
to, as her feelings started to change as they grew up, when she realized how much she cared about him and all these other guys that she dated, there wasn't anything like what she had with Sander. She was so afraid of losing that because she
Yeah,
needed him, especially after her dad died. She needed his support and
absolutely.
his love. So anyway,
Yeah,
that's
because
my
she
favorite.
clearly, like he's clearly her safe space, like, her, like, peace. Like, he brings her so much peace by just walking in the room. Like,
Right.
it's her comfort zone. And, yeah, absolutely, like, I could totally understand how scary that is, and how, okay, it's either all or nothing. Like, we can't just tiptoe around and be, like, friends with benefits. It's no, like, this is
Yeah.
not this like, there's too much history there, there's too much of a bond there where it can't it's either gonna grow from there, or, yeah, there's the risk where it just all ends up
Right.
horribly, and then
The
they
stakes
lose
are
that.
too high. Yeah. The
Yes.
stakes were too
Yeah.
high for her to
Yeah,
make a
100%.
mistake. Yep.
Yeah, when you talk about the work that you've done before, can you go into your background a little bit, and, like, how I wanna explore how releasing or writing and producing this book differed from your previous experiences? Did you have the same approach? Any big lessons learned? Stuff like that?
Publishing has changed since I started. So this is like my 76th book, maybe. And I
Jesus, congrats.
thanks. I sold my first book in 95. So I've been around a long time writing, but I was writing more category romance. That so romance
Sure.
is obviously where my heart is and where I started. Over the last, I want to say 15 years, I've started writing more single title romance, still romance. And then maybe the last really around COVID 2021, I think was when my first women's fiction kind of book came out. So this
Okay.
is my summer women's fiction book. I write 2 books a year. I write a Christmas book that is definitely romance. That's a sweet, cozy romance all every time. And then my summer book
Yeah.
is usually a little bit more. There's a little bit more to it. I would say in terms of how it maybe differed, it's an interesting world right now in the publishing world. Trying to have leverage and trying to maybe stay relevant is really a
Yeah.
challenge when you've for a long time I had a readership that picked up every single book. My books were less expensive. Now that it's harder to justify a trade book when people can get it from the library. So it's a lot of work to get out there, and a lot more. When I first started, we could just sit in our writing caves and write. That's all we had to do because there was no social media when I started, no email even when I started. We had to write a
Right.
letter and send it off to an editor in New York if you wanted to have a publishing contract.
Oh
So
my goodness, yeah.
it's very different, but I love it. I love the connection with readers. That's my favorite thing is so the social media part and being able to hear from readers that who have been
Oh,
their
yeah.
day has been better because of my books. And that's, I have a sign on my desk that says I may not change the world, but I can change someone's afternoon. And that's exactly what I try to do every time I sit down to write.
Oh my gosh, if that's all it takes, if that's all you need, that is perfect. It's like an unexpected gift, I think, with social media. And that's a for authors that I've spoken to who are as experienced and have tons of titles under their published under their belt. It's a common sentiment of yeah, they reflect on how much it has changed. And yeah, like readers would if maybe if they wanted to tell you, they would have to write and mail a letter to the
Right.
author.
Mhm.
Versus yeah, absolutely, they could just send you a message or send you an email or just or even comment and saying, "Oh my gosh, this is, like, amazing," or "I love them. I love your characters," and stuff like that. I think that's so fascinating because it's true, it's I think there's both, like, good and, like, it's the field is so saturated, I feel like, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's great
No.
that people are able to, like, publish independently or self-publish. I think that's great because there's so many stories out there like who aren't picked up by traditional publishers that are just as good and have and invoke that say that just that good feeling or
Right.
makes you think or there's talented people out there but that just don't or they can't get across a publisher's desk or editor's desk. And
Right.
I think that's the beauty of it. But then again, it's then there's just so much I don't know if you see it as competition, but it's just like you're
Mhm.
competing for readers' time,
It's
competing for their
right.
attention and
And
stuff
it's
like
discoverability.
that.
Romance readers are very voracious. They're
Yeah.
always looking for something new to read because they love that feeling that they get when they're reading a great book. And so it's trying to get your particular book and your particular voice to the readers who can find that. That's the tough part. Because and I love it as well. I love that the fact that there's anything you're into, anything you want to read, you can find a bunch of books that fill that need inside of you. It's just trying to say there's this too. It might not be
Yeah.
this that you were looking for, but you'll get a good experience if you read this book too. Because like I don't write sexy. That doesn't do well on TikTok. It doesn't do well on
Sure.
some of the other places where authors are found and where readers
Yeah.
find their authors. But I do what works for my characters and focus on the emotional
Yeah.
intimacy between them.
Yeah, you just find your readers who prefer that, I don't know, closed door or fade to black or not on the page sex scenes and stuff
Right.
like that. There's definitely readers. There's a whole spectrum of them, right? There's a whole
Right.
wide range in the romance genre of on this end you like the love story, but you don't need like the
Mm-hmm.
graphic sex scenes. You don't need all that. There's the other end where readers like they love that and that's great for them. It's
Mm-hmm.
like that's I don't like I'm just one of those people where I'm like, yeah, I for me personally, I like the spicy stuff, but I need plot too. I need character
Mm-hmm.
depth. I need a little extra unless there's a time where I'm like I really just want fluff. I don't wanna think. I just wanna read a cute love story. Then I don't need all that. I don't need it to really have much else going on other than the love story, but that's what I think women's fiction, it could also go both ways, right? But that is definitely more on the closed door, fade to black side, or just I've read women's fiction where it's glossed over. It's, yes, this is what they're doing right now, but you don't need to, like, word for word go through walk through it and that's fine. That but I like I really that's what I was like talking about earlier where I I didn't necessarily miss any of the graphic stuff, any of the in detail and intimacy because I just them getting there was the fun part and also the fun part of the sisters relationship and them getting to know each other and being like everyone's telling Allison when are you gonna tell her
Yeah.
Allison, let's go. And then we're all like Juniper, cut yourself some slack, cut everybody else some slack. It's like that was there was enough going on where I yeah, like I said, I didn't feel like I missed that. I love that it worked so well because there was so much else going on for me personally that worked so well for me, and that's why I and just, like, the writing in general, and you paced it so well where, like I said, there was just, like, the suspenseful parts as we're getting to the end, and I was just like confession, I had also been drinking while I was finishing the book, and so I was like some of my notes just become more unhinged, and I'm like, finally! I was like, "Yes, they finally did it," and I was, like, writing the percentage of it, like, when these moments happen, I'll still try to be spoiler free, but, like, still, I was like I just am, like, looking at my notes here, I'm like, "Oh, no, I remember." That was after a couple glasses of wine. That was I was like but I remember being so excited, like, I put my e-reader down, and I was like, "Ah!" Like, I was, like, a little giggling like a little schoolgirl, so I think that's the excitement part of it, not just with the romance, but then with, like, kind of the mystery of going through their dad's the author's things and trying to, like Juniper's trying to be useful. She needs to do something. She can't just relax. She should be relaxing
Right.
because of her of this life event that just happened, but she still wants to be useful, and she doesn't wanna feel like she's taking advantage of anything or anyone, and it all ties together. The fun part of with her searching through that stuff and her becoming useful and connecting with basically the author, like, with him unknowingly,
Right.
but she and that was, like it was just there was so many fun parts, but yeah, going off of that romance/women's slash women's fiction
Mm.
tendency to not go be so graphic, but it just works really well because you've got bigger fish to fry. You've got other things, like, you've got other stories to tell within this, like, narrative, and I appreciated it so much.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, curious, why? Because you do have Beckett and June and Allison's point of view. Why did you decide not to have a Xander's point of view?
So that was it's an editorial choice. I do that occasionally where I'll have kind of a main couple, and in my mind, it was June and Beckett were the main couple because she was the one who really had the most character growth that she needed before throughout the book. And then there's not a lot of room when you've got two different storylines going. There's not a lot of room for everybody's point of view. And so sometimes I'll do all four, but most of the time I'll do the two. If I'm writing about two women, which I often do, it will be their points of view, and then it will be one of the men, and I have to decide, okay, which one do I want to do?
Okay.
But it was just an editorial decision, and then really the
It
book
just felt right. Yeah.
it felt right for
Yeah.
me. And then though as I was in it, I was like, okay, I really want to write his point of view, but by then I hadn't, and so I would have had to go back through and plant those seeds earlier, and so it didn't quite work out. But lots of times when I do that, I'll have one romance or one situation where they both have things to overcome, and then the other one where the hero knows what he wants. So it doesn't need to be a journey for him. He already knows. And in this case, it was like that. Xander knew that he loved her
Yeah.
from the time they were in school. So there was no really character change in him, a character arc in him from the beginning to where they ended up. It was all what her journey was, Allie's journey to saying, okay, I'm willing to take this risk. He's too important to me. This could be an amazing relationship. I just have to have the courage to do that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. That's so true because, yeah, Xander didn't need it would have been nice, but we didn't that wasn't his it wasn't his story to tell. Like, he didn't you're absolutely
Mm-hmm.
right now that you point that out. It's yeah, he was established. He didn't need to grow anymore. He had grown. He had
Mm-hmm.
done that. He was just I think yeah, and even if we got his point of view, we it would have maybe spoiled a little bit because well, she weren't paying attention. You wanted us to pay attention to Allie coming to realize it.
And
To
if the stakes had to be high for her, so we really couldn't know that Xander, you suspected that he had feelings for her, but you really didn't know. There were a few little hints here and there where he kept a photo album of her, pictures of her, and those are all things she needed to see on her journey.
yeah.
But it's fun. It's fun to write both. Like I said, my roots are romance, and I'm used to writing a linear romance story. That's where I started out, and that's what most of my books were. Although I will say my first like 25 books were romantic suspense. So I had a lot of other external plot factors to move the story along. So when I stopped
Yeah.
writing romantic suspense, I had to focus more on character
Yeah.
growth and the character arc. And so that was an
Yeah.
interesting journey for me as well. But I love that story. I love the idea of being a linear story between two people and how they each come to where they end up and how they each open their hearts. But again, in this case, Xander knew what he wanted. And so he didn't really have a character arc in the story.
Yeah. Yeah, because I love, like, when we get to Beckett's point of view, he's just, "Oh, damn, I'm a goner. Like,
Yeah.
I can't resist, I can't deny it, I can't" I loved it. I love it. I love it when characters who seem so sure of themselves, like, when authors ruffle their feathers or put them in uncomfortable situations. I'm like I'm such, like, a chaos lover. I'm like, I love it when it gets messy.
Me too, as a reader first, and I
Yeah.
love the messy. I love just thinking there's no way these people can ever end up together. There's too many obstacles, too much conflict between them. And then reading how an author does it is to me is just magic because they make it work
Yeah.
in the end.
The Hank, right? His dog's name was
Yeah,
Hank.
Hank.
Just
Yeah.
adorable. He was a little wingman, little wing dog.
Yep. Yep.
I love that. I'm like, again, sucker for dogs. If you couldn't tell, like, I'm such a dork.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was a paw. I saw the books and it
Yeah, it
didn't
says
occur to me that it was a paw.
easily yeah, it said, like, easily distracted by dogs and books. So I'm
Same,
like, it's
same.
yeah, I know. I'm like, as soon as I forget where I saw this, I'm like, I'm like, God, the algorithm got me. I think I was just scrolling through my social media. The algorithm got me. They knew me. It's frightening, but also I'm like, I'm not mad about it per se.
Right. It's adorable. It's a very cute show.
Yeah, Hank, he came in clutch. He's the real man, the real dog in that one.
And he so it's set on a ranch. Beck lives next door. And so that was for June. She was like, why is he letting this dog run free? But it's a little different in on a big ranch where the animals are just used to running where they want to run. And every day he would come and find June because he was so used to coming and finding Carson, which is her father that she didn't know was her father, the author. At his writing cabin, he would come every day to visit him in his writing cabin as the dog made his rounds of the ranch. And so that was
Yeah.
fun. That was really fun to write his character.
Yeah. So didn't you have like experience? Are you in like the Wyoming area or something similar where you are really well aware of that type of environment and land and stuff like that?
So I'm in northern Utah. I live in just a small town. It's not a huge town. We have a lot of farming around us, not a lot of ranching, but a lot of like dairy farms and things. But the idea for this came from I did spend a summer when I was in college working at the Jackson Lake Lodge in the Grand Teton National Park. And so
Okay.
I'm quite familiar with that area. My husband has hiked a lot of places in that area. And then I have farmers and ranchers in my family history, and I know that they just
Oh,
let their
okay.
dogs run around the
Yeah.
ranch and visit the animals and things.
Yeah, I know. That's really funny how, yeah, because I have my family on my mother's side, her dad owned a couple ranches in Mexico, and so I've been there back and forth a bunch of times. But yeah, they'd have the ranch dogs just chilling, running
Yep.
around, protecting the other animals and stuff like that, but they weren't allowed in the house. So it was like
Yeah.
it was funny. It's kinda there's 2 parts to that, right? It's
Right.
Hank was allowed in the house. "Oh, hey, neighbor." He was like, "What's
Yeah.
up? You got a treat for me?" But yeah, it's exactly how Beck was like, "No, he knows better. Like, he's fine. Like, this is his turf. Like, he's good."
Well,
So
and it's
yeah, I
always
that's
it is weird for me to write those kind of scenes because I have a little dog and I'm so protective of her. We never go anywhere when she's not on a leash because she's tiny and there are dogs that sometimes run loose and can
Oh,
come
yeah.
after a little tiny dog and so she's never
Yeah.
not on a harness and a leash so that I can pick her up if I need to or whatever and protect her. And so I am when I
Scoop her
wrote
up.
that
It's just
scene I was
she'll
like
probably run away if she's, like, being chased where you no, don't run away, you're
yeah.
gonna make it
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah,
Like
so that's why we I pick her right up if any dog comes over and come
yeah,
up.
I could see that. No, 'cause mine, yeah, she's, like, medium sized, she's, like, maybe 50 pounds, but she's, like, 11 pushing 11 years old.
Oh, really?
She's really funny, like, she doesn't care about being an alpha, like, even in her own yard. Neighbor dogs who've come over to play take the stick, and "I don't need that stick, that's fine." She will go
You go.
She doesn't yeah, she doesn't get territorial, but until my first son was born, then I remember we went to the dog park and with him in his stroller and, like, dogs, they get excited around, like, little babies and infants and
Mhm.
toddlers, and they're like, just wanted to say hi, and there was a dog that wanted to come say hi on the stroller, and our dog, she came out of nowhere and was like, "Nope, that's my human, like, back off." Like, she got really, like, protective, and I'm like, "I didn't know she had it in her." I was like,
Oh,
"She
that's
doesn't."
sweet, though. That's
I
sweet.
know, it was really comforting and sweet, and I was like, "Okay, like, she got to see a new side of her," but now she's just it's hilarious because my oldest, he's 7, he'll be 8 soon, but it's really funny because we have her that's his chore is, like, feeding her twice a day. So now she knows to bug him. If it's time, she, like, will go find him and, like, kinda bark at him and growl at him, "Hey," like, howl and stuff, and, "It's time to feed me," and he's, "Oh, Arya." He's just fine. It's just funny to see, like, now, like, they learn, they pick up on things, and, yeah, it's, like, technically your little brother, but it's
Right.
just really funny. It's so
Yeah.
funny because she's like an old lady. She's a little brat still, but I love it. I love to see that, like, dynamic change and how they interact with each other, but yeah, again, like, sharing the sentiment of a dog owner, you never know how other dogs are gonna react, but yeah, it's like city dog versus ranch dog slash
Right.
farm dog slash suburban dog slash
Yeah,
like, it's kind of
exactly.
comparing all those different things. So that was no, that's really funny how you were like, "Okay, I gotta imagine this different personality in the dog," like,
Yep.
not being too frightful for this fictional
You have to take chances. Your dogs are safe. In my world, all the animals are safe. Nothing's gonna
yes.
happen.
That's comforting. So what draws you to like the women's fiction slash romance genre? You touched on it a little bit, and obviously, like you said, you're a reader first. I want to explore kind of what draws you to that. What do you keep? Why is that your niche?
So that's an interesting question and one I've asked myself quite often. And I think it's because I love the romance. I will always have romantic elements in all my stories. As I get older and as my friends get older, my sisters get older, I see sometimes we have different situations. And yes, romance is still important to us, but there are other things we have to deal with in the general scope of our lives. So many people I know are caregivers or,
Yeah.
caring for elderly parents or whatever. We're all struggling with something. And how do you fit in that romance part, the romance element, when you've got all these other things at stake? And so I liked having a little more room in a romance. Again, it's linear. You're talking about these two people and their journey, and you might bring in neighbors and friends, situations like that, but that's not going to be part of their journey. It's part of their journey, but it's not the they don't have to figure that part out. They're just figuring out the romance part of it. And so in women's fiction, they got to figure all this other stuff out before they can figure out that they have room in their lives for this other person and space in their life for this other
Yeah.
person. So, and
Yeah, I
I
can
think,
share that.
I mean, I like writing both. Like I said, my Christmas one is strictly romance. And I love that part that when I write a Christmas book, it's basically romance. And I enjoy going back to my roots a little bit, but I also like having the opportunity to write a little bigger beach read. Not that romances are small. It's just sometimes people are looking for a little something else besides the romance.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's like again, circling back to the earlier conversation, it was like sometimes people are mood readers and sometimes
Hmm.
people know, okay, if there's none of these boxes are checked, then I don't know if I'm gonna have a good time kind of thing. So it's, yeah, there's just you find what works, you find your people, you find your audience, and you try your best to keep up. Just try your best to keep up. It's tricky, I get it. There's like kind of some potentially maybe I don't know if it's like it could be considered trigger potentially triggering content because there's like some darker themes. There's Beck's heartbreaking backstory, but then there's also kind of Juniper, her whole coming to the realization, and also Allison too is like coming to terms with why they exist, why their relationship exists in the first place is because there was like
Hmm.
infidelity and there was dishonesty. And so I want to explore like how you navigated those themes, like how you found a way to work it in and be just authentic and sensitive and not for the sake of exploiting, and just where did you have to get in the zone, did you have to like pull yourself out of the zone and taking care of yourself and stuff like that.
And that's a great question. And I would have to say, especially in the case of the backstory that sort of set everything up, the fact that there was this lost book of first loves between Carson and Juniper's mother, and the story was how I had to ask myself, and actually I was like a third of the way through the book before I figured out, why did they not get together? What was the barrier between them? And I realized, oh yeah, she's married. That's exactly why. She was married. Her husband, they married for convenience. I will say that's not really a spoiler. She married for convenience because he was in the military and she had left home and was on her own. And so it worked out for both of them. It wasn't a deep love story between them, but she still, when she fell in love with this author, she felt so horrible about doing that she kept the secret forever from him and from her daughter and from everything. And so we don't figure that out. That was the other factor as I was writing this book. I was like, how do I tell this story when they're both dead and there's nobody's going to know for sure what happened between them because they're both dead. And so I kind of did it through the journals a little bit, the journals that Juniper's reading. She finds out a lot more about her father. She finds out about the story between him and her mother and the love between them. And so basically that's how I handled that part. And it was difficult. And I was trying to think of, how do I handle this in a way that doesn't make her seem horrible? Juniper's mother, the fact that she had a baby and it could be she didn't know it was his child. She might have thought it was her husband's child. There's always that possibility that she didn't know but I liked the idea that Elizabeth, that was Juniper's mother's name, she always loved Carson's books and she read them to her daughter. And that was a tangible link between them. And so after she died, that was something that Juniper still held on to. Her mother had a signed first edition of his first book. And that was a cherished possession of hers. She didn't really know why. And then she finds out later why, because he's her father.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like again, it's almost like a little soap opera, but it's on the surface, it's juicy drama, but then once you, like, get into, like, you I felt for the characters, and I loved getting into all their point of views, and also just they're interacting with each other and with themselves, like, they're reflecting, questioning, like, everything they think they know about themselves and about their family members, about their
Right.
parents, about their loved ones, and yeah, like, for me, the reader, I was like, "Oh, this is messy, but it's fun, but it's also, like, heartfelt." I felt for them, but I was also just entertained by just the drama of it all, but also I think Ellie's hilarious. Allison is hilarious. She's
She
so
was
funny.
she was
She
fun to write. And I liked this. She's younger. I tried to write her with a younger voice. She's 25, where June is like 32. A lot of my heroines tend to be in the 30s or even older occasionally, but I liked writing a little bit younger between two mid 20 people, and I try to write in that kind of a voice with her. But I didn't answer, you asked about Beck's backstory, and I will tell you
Yeah.
he had a rough backstory, and actually my editor wanted me to not include that part of it. She wanted
Oh,
to make
okay.
his backstory. She said there's a lot of dark things going on here with June's heart problems and things like that. So my publishing house, when after they read the initial idea for it, they said, let's not make that so dark. But as I was writing it, I was like, I need to have this dark. He needs to still have things that he's struggling with or that he's struggled with, and that helps him help June as she's in the middle of struggling with the things
Yes.
that she's
'Cause
facing.
it's like, why did he move there? Why did he quit his job?
Mm-hmm.
Why we need to know that as a reader, and that he's also surprised that because he hasn't felt that way towards someone since that, and so
Right.
it's yes, I think I can see why they thought maybe maybe not let's, like, drag the mood down too
Right.
much. I could
Right.
see their reasoning for that, but I could also I'm glad that you fought for that because it was like, no, this is totally it's relevant to him and who he is, and otherwise it's there would be, like, plot holes. Wait, why what happened? Why
Yeah,
is
and
he
they were
here?
saying maybe he just went through a bad divorce. And I was thinking, well, that's not really going to explain why you throw away a successful career and move. You might struggle with a bad divorce. Yes, I can see that. But why would that
Yeah.
then send you spiraling for a couple of years and having to recreate yourself completely? And so and the funny thing is, they never said another word after I turned the book in, and I kept
Yeah.
that part of it. I never heard anything else because I think they probably realized, yeah, that needed to happen. He needed to have that
Yeah.
kind of backstory. That's the case often in writing, where it might look really complicated on paper when you first present the idea to your publishing house, but hopefully you can carry it off in a way like with Beck. I didn't dwell on it page after page of him thinking about what had happened, but the reader had an idea that, yeah, he'd had some tragedy in his past. And so
Yeah.
that's all you need to do is plant a few little things there and show to give him motivation for what he does later in the story.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I know, I can imagine that was also, like, the tricky parts, but that happens, like, I imagine with any book that you might write is you're gonna encounter a little bit of conflict here and there, which is because it's tricky. It's like, what it could be I imagine I can be indecisive sometimes myself, so I can imagine how tricky that is to be like, "Oh, like, should I just either bite the bullet, take it out, or leave it in and just
Right.
don't think about it anymore? Just make a decision and go with it, and then don't question yourself, don't doubt yourself, and just leave it alone." So
I'm
I totally
very indecisive too, and many of my writing friends are very indecisive. And when I look at it, I think it's because we're making decisions every single minute that we're writing. The dialogue, the plot, all of it is making decisions, and it's really hard in the rest of my life to make decisions
get
because I'm exhausted from doing that all day long, figuring out what my
Yeah.
characters are doing and why they're doing it.
You're like, "Why am I doing this to myself? Because I love it." But I totally yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna throw this at you, a two-parter. What you touched on it a little bit. What were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
The most challenging part for me in this particular story was weaving the different storylines in a way that wasn't jarring for the reader, so that there was a continuity in the story and they could remember, oh, yes, here's June again. And then the funnest part, the most fun part for me was going back into Carson's point of view through the journal entries and writing and trying to think. He expressed a lot of doubt and insecurity as an author. He became basically one of America's best loved authors. That was the backstory. Is he's like a Steinbeck Hemingway kind of a guy, and that everybody loves his books and they touch people and they move people. But I liked the idea that right before his first book came out, he was struggling with insecurity, because every writer I know, we struggle feeling like we're imposters. And we've been doing that. Even if you've been doing this so long, you feel like you have to relearn every single time you sit down. And so I liked writing about the writing struggles of him in his journals, and then figuring out what were the problems between, why didn't Elizabeth tell him about her daughter? Or
Yeah.
why didn't they have their happy ending that they should have had? And I will say Carson went on to have a happy life. It wasn't like he grieved her forever, but he did grieve her for a while, because after she left him. And so he went on to marry someone else that he loved very much, and they had Allison, and he had a happy ever after. So that, let's not say that he pined for her for the rest of his life, but
Sure.
I liked figuring that part out.
Yeah, and it is, and I love the kind of like realization and how like the girls, both the sisters, they come to that too. It's like, no, it's totally possible to fall in love more than once, and it's
Mhm.
possible to kind of respect and maybe long for it and reflect on that and remember that first love while also still being at the same time madly in love with your current wife, spouse,
Right.
whoever, and appreciating and loving the life that you built with that person while also lamenting at what could have been back then. And it makes sense. And this doesn't like human beings are like, we can be complicated and multidimensional. And
Mhm.
I was just talking about an author who it makes sense why, because we're so complicated, that maybe one person at one time might not touch or fulfill all those needs that might.
Yeah.
And plus those were two different parts in his life as well.
Mhm.
Like they're about 8 years apart. The sisters are about 8 years
Mhm.
apart. So it's like a good chunk of time to, fall in love more than once. And it's, yeah, like he let her go and he accepted it, and then he found a way to build another beautiful, like a beautiful life that he rightly deserved. He deserved it. He didn't, and also while thriving in his career. And
Right.
so yeah, absolutely. I love that you have that kind of dialogue going. You have that part of the narrative where it wasn't super scandalous. It's just a little scandalous because of the secrecy, but and because nobody knew
Mhm.
except for the DNA
The
results
mother,
came
yeah.
in, except for Juniper's mom, and then the truth is gone with her. But yeah, no, I totally appreciated that you added that as part of the narrative. It's not wrong per se. It's not, there's no shame. There's no, you didn't do anything bad. It was just it totally makes sense that it in those two parts of his life and who he is, that it's totally possible that he would find love more than once and work with it.
Right,
Yeah.
and his journey in a lot of ways, he doesn't appear on the page, but I feel like he was a very important part of the book, because obviously he's father to both of these women, and then his journals were a big part of the story as well. And but his journey was, you can have tough things happen to you and still have happiness. He lost the woman
Yeah.
he loved, he still found happiness. And Juniper's the same way. She finds out she has a heart condition, and everything she thought she knew about herself is not true, but she can still find happiness. And I think that's such an important part about life. And that tends to be a theme in a lot of my books, is that life is hard. Life sucks for lots of people in a lot of different ways, but it doesn't mean there's no room for joy too in your
Yeah.
life. And I try to, that's the
Yeah.
message I hope readers take away from all of my books, is that you can have tough stuff and you can get through it and still be happy at some point in your
Yeah.
life. It might not be right now, it
100%.
might not be today, but hang in there and it will come around.
Oh gosh, that's so perfect. That's like that's like what gets me through the day half the time, or even like even in my parenting style when the kids like they complain and I'm, "Oh, I hate this," or "I don't like this." I'm like, "I know. I know
Mhm.
this is gonna suck. I know you don't
Yeah.
like it, but it's not up to you." I'm like, and
Yep.
it's a way for them to feel validated too, because I'm like, "No, I get it. I would be upset too, but this is just how it is and you have to deal with it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry."
Right.
Like it's just like we're learning, adults, a lot of adults are still having to grapple with that fact where it's
Yes.
just, yeah, this is gonna suck, and just let it suck and move on and use it to propel you forward. And
Right.
don't let it get you down, because like you're so much tougher than that. Like you
Mhm.
just, know that, right? It's just give yourself a little pep talk and be like, okay, yeah, this sucks. I'll let it suck, and then boom, let's go.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah,
Get through
absolutely.
it. Get through it to the other side. That's
Yeah,
the main secret of life. You just get through the
yeah.
obstacle and get to the other side of it.
Yeah, it's nobody's comparing pain
Mm.
or anguish or any of that, and there's so many factors in it, but yeah, the bottom line is just, yeah, join the club.
Yeah,
Like, yes, like, what are you gonna do about it?
yeah.
That's the more important part of it.
Ex-
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I'm gonna throw this at you as well. So what advice do you have for Juniper? What advice do you have for Allison?
The advice would have for Juniper, basically, it's just what we were saying. Just because you now are not the person that you thought you were, you have this heart condition you have to live with, doesn't mean you're unworthy of being loved. It doesn't mean you don't have so much still to give to the world. You'll come to terms with this at some point in your life and be able to move past it and be happy. And then for Allie, I'd say figure out what you want to do. That's her main thing. She has to figure out
Yeah.
if she wants to be an attorney like her mother was, or if she wants to run the bookstore in place of her grandmother, or what she wants to do, or travel with Xander for the next
Mm,
5 years or whatever.
yeah.
Just figure out what you want to do and then do it and be happy.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I think a lot of readers at almost any age can relate to that because even if it's a reader in their 20s, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, so this happens." And like I feel like so many people have gone through what Allison is going through, like at her age right now,
Right.
just figuring out like what. But it's yeah, like the world is your oyster.
And if
Just
try something, if it doesn't work out, you move on to something else.
seriously,
It's not the end of the world. And I think people have so
exactly.
much more flexibility now to do things that maybe they did when I was growing up back in the dark ages. Everybody's expected to go to college and then get married and all the things, and now you can do design your life the way you want
Yeah.
it. If it just you decide that's not how you like it, you can go back to the drawing board and design it all over again.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Mhm.
and just don't be smart about it. You just put your pieces in place, but you don't have to yeah, exactly. You don't have to follow a formula.
Yeah.
Unless that's what you wanna do, unless that's where you're gonna find fulfillment, then
Mhm.
yes, do that. But if you don't know, it's okay.
That's
Like, it's
fine.
not,
Well, you have lots of life
uh
to live to figure things out.
yes, absolutely. Okay, so RaeAnne Thayne, where can we find you online and on social media?
So my website is raeannthayne.com. I'm on Facebook a lot, and that's author RaeAnne Thayne. I'm on Instagram, occasionally TikTok, but not very often. And those are basically the main places you can find me. I do threads,
Perfect. Yeah.
few
I
things.
know there's so much out there. So, The Lost Book of First Loves, that is available on June 3rd. Rayanne, thank you so much for joining me today, for going your authentic and generous answers, and for going in a little, kind of like going down the rabbit hole a little bit, going a little deeper with it. I appreciate it. And if and when you ever you're releasing your next work, feel free. I'll love to chat with you again.
Absolutely. It was a delight. Thanks so much for having me.
And there you go. That was Rand Thane talking about The Lost Book of First Loves. That book is available on June 3rd. You could find links where to purchase the book and find Rihanna online and on social media in the show notes. And while you're perusing your favorite authors online and on social media, make sure that you're following Cantina Book Club, and so that you don't miss a beat on whatever I'm working on, whether it's book reviews or author interviews or drink recipes. If you need any other book recommendations, check out cantinabookclub.com. I'm always writing book reviews in all sorts of genres. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening.